We are going to discuss about group actions, give quite a few geometrically appealing examples, and put some abstract examples too in group theory. See, the study of group actions is very, very important. Not most of the modern results of group theory is proved using group actions. Of course, it goes under the name of representation theory, but it's a group acting on a vector space via linear action. And not only that, if in the study of harmonic analysis and topology and modern geometry, the group action plays a very, very decisive role. Unfortunately, with somewhat abstract looking definitions, group actions is not very well understood by students. And teachers also in some sense do not give full justice to group actions. Okay, so the plan of this series will be to give these things an exposition to group actions and its use. Possibly we will go up to Sylow's theorem. Okay, all right, this will be a series of lectures. Maybe it will take about 6 lectures. So let us see. Okay, let's get started. Yeah, basic reference is a very, very short article of mine, group actions and Sylow's theorems. You can download it from 4D space mtts.org.in/EA. EA stands for expository articles. And the book by Professor Santanam on algebra closely follows. Okay, it will be very close to what I am talking about. So that will be an excellent book as a reference. Okay, right. So let us start. Let G be a group. You will see that I speak and I will write very less. Okay. So if you expect a complete set of notes in my lectures, you won't find it. If this is the first time you are attending my lecture, you will be at a slight disadvantage. But you listen to me properly, you can replay the video, you will understand better. Okay. And the group may be finite or infinite. Okay, at present I don't make any distinction about whether group being finite or infinite. And let X be a non-empty set. Okay, then I want to define what is meant by G acts on X. This is what I want to look at. Okay, before looking at a formal definition, let me explain that. Okay, what it really means. So suppose X is a set. Okay, and G is a group. Okay, the elements are these two, and X is a set which elements. Let's not worry about, we can put those things. Now when I say a group G acts on X, what does it mean is, think of this X as a field, football field, and these blue dots are the balls at various places. And this is a play, and this group, think of them as players. So let's start with an A, okay, an element here, that's a player. He kicks this ball, call this ball at X. He kicks the ball. The ball then moves to some place, okay, and it moves to this position is what I call A dot X. Okay, this is just a notation. Do not understand A is an element of the group, X is an element of a set. Okay, the G and X may not even be, anything. So A dot X may not make sense. So it is just a notation. What is this? When A kicks X, he goes to another place, a point in the field, that is called A dot X. You understand? Right. Now, what may happen is there is another element B in G. Then B kicks this fellow. He kicks the ball at AX, and then This goes to, this is B kicks. And where does it go? That I will denote by B dot A dot X. Do you understand this? If you want to think of this as a force field consisting of various forces. When something, a particle is there, when the force A acts on that, you get AX. Then the force B acts on that, you get this place. Now you can look at BA. Since G is a group, BA, this is a group binary operation. BA is an element of G. Okay, think of this as, again, if you think of them as force, this is a resultant force. If A and B are added, in some sense binary operation is done, then you get a new force, that is BA. Therefore, what can happen is the BA, now this element kicks X now. BA kicks. So it will go to some element here. What I want is that element should be the same element as this. Okay, this is the element I want. Are you following? Yeah. So let us look at pictorially. X is there. Okay. A kicks him. Then he lands up with A dot X. This is just a notation. This is an element of X. Okay. A is an element of the group. And now B kicks him. And where does he live? B. I'm just writing this as this. B dot X. Right. On the other hand, let us look at the group element BA. X kicks BA directly, and I will let it BA dot X. This is the group element dot X. Call this, if you want, G dot X. Now what do I want? I want these two elements must be the same. This for which A and B? For every A and B. So X is taken to AX by A, and AX is taken by B to B dot A dot X. Now let BA directly act on X, then he will take him to BA dot X. So what I want is this. Notice that it looks like associativity. Okay, but don't think of it. Algebra teachers will look down upon you. Don't say that. But that's what it is. Something similar. Okay. Now in any group, I said G is any group. At least there is always one element in the group. What is that? Yes, identity element. So identity element, okay, this is like a zero force. It doesn't do anything. That means what? For every X in X, when E acts on X, it doesn't do anything. He is like a zero energy football player. He kicks X, but X doesn't budge. It doesn't move. Okay, that's it. So if this happens, I say the group G acts on X. Okay. Now, so how do I write it? So G acts on X. That means given any A in G and X in X, that means it is an element of G cross X. Okay. Where does it go to? It goes to a new element A dot X in X. Therefore, I have a map from G cross X to X. Okay. Now, usually, traditionally, algebra people will denote by alpha or some such thing, alpha for A for action. Okay. Now, let's try to understand the first condition, or rather the second condition. What does it say? Ex goes to E dot X, but that is equal to X. This must be true for all X. This is same as saying in terms of alpha notation, alpha Ex, that must be an element of X. In my notation is E dot X, which is same as X. This must be true for all, every X in capital X. Next thing, what does it mean? So I have Ax. Where does it go to? A dot X. Okay. So I want to write this X going to Ax followed by B action going to B dot Ax. I want to write in terms of alpha notation. Okay, let us do that. So how does it do that? So I have alpha of V of alpha of Ax equal to alpha of V of X. See, this is what you may see in algebra textbook. Naturally, you will be put off. A, B are elements of G. X is any element of X. For all A, B, and D, for all X. You see that? What does this mean? Alpha A X is same as A dot X. and alpha b acting on a dot x is b dot a dot x. You wanted to say it is same as alpha bax, which is ba acting on x. So we got it. Okay. So pause, review, and then proceed. I will call it PRP later. This all group action is. Okay. Do not worry about this alpha notation. Think of this notation. The only thing is, remember, a dot x is not any binary operation because a is coming from g, x is from x, set. Okay, let us look at a very simple example so that we get used to this. Okay. Okay, let us look at a very simple example. Let G be additive group under addition. Additive group of reals under addition. Okay. Now let my x equal to R2. Okay. Right. Now elements of G I will denote by T. T is a real number. Now elements of X I will denote as usual an ordered pair XY. So I want to give an action, that is G cross X to X. Okay. Right. That means, so let us start with an element T and X comma Y. You see that this is your alpha. But let's not worry about this. Let us worry about the way we write D dot XY. Okay. You might have learned vector spaces. So do not think T dot XY is TXTY. Okay. This is not scalar multiplication. Okay. Right. So what is it? It is going to be, let us say, oh, X plus T comma Y. This is the definition. So what does it mean? I have an R2. So I have an XY. Okay. And a real number T, when it acts on that, what does it do? It translates X by X plus T. If T is positive, it will be this. This will be XY. This will be X plus T comma Y. If T is negative, it will be on this side. If T is negative, it will go here. This may be X plus Ty. If T is negative. If T is positive, it will be like this. Okay. That's all the action is. Now, what are the things we have to check? We have to check what happens to the identity element. What is the identity element of additive group? 0. Very good. Therefore, 0 when acting on XY, what do we want? Let's go back to the condition. Whenever identity element acts on an element of the set, the element is left invariant. It is fixed. It doesn't move at all. Does it happen? Yes. According to our definition, T dot XY is X plus T. That is X plus 0, therefore XY. So this is true for all XY in R2. 0 dot XY is XY. Is that clear? Very good. The next thing I can ask, let us look at two elements S and T in R. Okay. Let us look at XY. Let it T, S act on that. Where will it go? Under S action, it will go to X plus S and Y. Now T act on that. Where does it go to? The T gets added to the first coordinate, that is X plus S plus T, Y, right? On the other hand, let us look at the S plus T. The group operation is addition, therefore S and ST will be S plus T. So when S plus T acts on that, where does it go? It goes to X plus S plus T. If you want, you should rule like this. Okay, comma Y. So you can see these two are equal, right? Therefore, this is a genuine group action. Right. Therefore, what do I do? The additive group R plus acts on what? Acts on R2. That is my X. Right? Okay. Now, before I go to the second example, let me introduce another definition. Okay. I'm sure all of you know, you would have heard the word orbit of a planet, right? I have a sun here. Okay. And there is a planet, then Okay, the planet, orbit of the planet. What does it mean? If a particle moves as time goes by, what is the path on which it moves? That is called a orbit. So we want to do the similar thing in the case of group action. So let us go back. So G is a group. It acts on X. Yes. Let us look at the picture. I did this. This is my X. Start with an X. Let us call it X naught if you want, or let me call it a P, a point. Right. This is a point. Now, as G kicks, then this P gets moved to various things. You understand that? G, let us say G kicks, then these may be the various points. So this will be G1 of P, this may be G2 of P, this may be G3 of P, or G may be, remember, it need not be finite. I'm just giving for example. You understand that? So what is the orbit? Orbit is various places where P is pushed by the action of G. When G acts on P, it goes to various points. This collection of all these points is called the orbit. So let us make a definition. Okay. Orbit of P and X under G action. G is this following subset. This is G dot P, where G varies over the group G. Okay, these are called orbit. Yeah. Now let us look at, just to make sure that you understand what is the orbit of a point here. So in the example, let us start with a point. Okay. Let us, for example, start with the point 1, 1. That is my P. Right. This is 1, 1. Now, what is the orbit under the group action? So in the example, orbit of 1, 1 under R, the additive group R. What is it? So take any element of T. What happens to this? What I will get? I will get 1 plus T and 1 as T varies over R. This will be the orbit. Do you understand that? Yes. Now remember, as T varies over R, 1 plus T can be any real number. Therefore, this set is same as X comma 1, where X is in R. Because I can solve for X. Right? Take any X comma 1, solve for X. 1 plus T equal to X. That means T must be X minus 1. You understand? Therefore, the orbit of 1 comma 1 is the set of all points X comma 1. What is this? This is, yes, this is a line, horizontal line parallel to the x-axis through the point 1 comma 1. Okay, I may not be able to draw a good picture, but I hope you will understand. That is this. So this is the thing, y equal to 1. Therefore, the orbit is nothing other than equal to line given by y equal to 1. Yeah, very good. Let us look at another example. Let us look at the multiplicity group plus or minus 1. Okay, this is the group G. You can also think of it as Z2, as these are isomorphic, but then Z2 will be under addition, whereas this will be under plus or minus 1 will be under multiplication. Right? Okay. Now, X is some group. It need not be G. It may be some H. H is any group. Yeah. Now I want to say, how does this group act on X? That is, I want to define G acting on X, which is equal to the group H. It may be any group. It need not be a subgroup of G. Okay, just because H is there, you may be tempted to think H is a subgroup of G. No, I'm not assuming that. H is any group. It could be equal to G. It could be a subgroup of G, or it could be any group for that matter. Okay, what is the action? Now notice that what is the identity element of this group? Plus 1. Therefore, when 1 acts on any element H, it must be nothing other than H. Right? because I want a group action. So I am bound to define 1 dot h equal to h. That is, one acts on h, so that as identity, right? Next, let's look at -1. When -1 acts, what do I want? Okay, I want it to be h inverse. What is h inverse? H is a group. I'm writing with respect to multiplicative notation. Therefore, the inverse of h is h inverse. Therefore, -1 dot h is h inverse. Do all of you understand this? Yes? Yeah. Okay. Now, is it a group action? What is it I have to check? Luckily, there are only two elements. Therefore, what are the possibilities? I have to check h going to 1. Okay, that will be h, and that going to by -1 h inverse. The other way around will be h going to -1, that is h inverse. That is again -1, that is h inverse inverse. That is equal to h, right? But -1 times -1 is 1. Therefore, h under 1 will also go to h. Therefore, this is correct. And here 1 into -1 will be -1. Therefore, h under -1 will go to h inverse. Therefore, it's correct. Are you following? Please pay attention. What I have checked is I have defined for two elements. That's not enough. I have to check condition number 1, which is by definition correct. Condition number 2 is if I have two elements a and b, x going to ax followed by bax. It is same as x going to under b action to some element. These two are equal. That's what I have to check. I checked it. Okay. Now, what is the orbit? Fix an element h in h. What is the orbit of h? This is under the group action G. When the action is to be mentioned, you also write orbit suffix G, that is denotes orbit under group action G of the element h. So you will immediately say it has two elements, h and h inverse, right? Because there are only two elements. But when is it? Can it be a singleton? Yes. When? Obvious cases when h is the identity element of h. I'll denote by EH, but usually I do not. But for clarity here, I'm doing EH. Then h and h inverse are the same. Next thing is, suppose order of order of h is 2, then what does it mean? H equal to h inverse. Okay, h may not be identity. Its order of h is 2, therefore h cannot be identity. But h must be h inverse. Therefore, in that case also, the orbit consists of one element. In all other cases, the orbit consists of two elements. This is an abstract example. How many of you like it? So pause, review, and proceed. Now let's look at a third example. Now we will go back to again geometric example, right? Let us look at the so-called circle group. Let me call it G, the circle group of complex numbers. Let me write in terms of complex notation, mod z equal to 1. Okay. All of you must know this is a multiplicative group. Right? Or any element is of the form e power I theta. Right? If G is here, G is of the form e power I theta for some theta real. That in terms of cos theta and sin theta, cos theta plus sin theta. Okay, that's why it's called a circle group, because this can be picturized as a circle. Okay, now what is my x? My x is going to be C, the center of complex numbers. Okay, now I want to define a group action, the circle group. Let me call it a circle group so that I don't have to repeat. The circle group acts on the set of complex numbers x equal to C. How does it act? Now you give me an element G, that is e power I theta, and give me an element in x, because it's a complex number, I will denote by arbitrary element by z instead of x. Okay, So G X, so G comma X, this is a group action I have to define. This is just G dot S. What is this dot? This dot is nothing other than multiplication C. If G is e power I theta, it is e power I theta times Z. That's it. Okay. This is a number multiplication of two complex numbers. Is it a group action? Now, what is the multiplicative identity for the circle group? It's a constant 1. Right? Okay. Are all of you sure about that? Okay, good. Therefore, where will 1z go to? It will go to 1 dot z. Since 1 is the multiplicative identity in the complex field, this is the same as z. This is for every z in C. So the first condition is true. Now what is the second condition? Let us take two elements. Let us call it e power I theta and another one e power I phi. Okay. So where does, under e power I theta, where does z go to? Z goes to e power I theta into z. Under e power I phi, when e power I phi acts on this element, where does it go to? E power I phi. This into this number, complex number, should multiply this complex number e power I theta into z. Now remember, e power I phi, e power I theta and z, these are all complex numbers, and multiplication of complex numbers is associative. Therefore, this is same as e power I theta into e power I phi, e power I theta into z. But I'm sure all of you know the complex number multiplication. This is same as e power I theta plus phi or phi plus theta into z. Right? Because if I have e power I theta and e power I phi, what is the multiplication of these two complex numbers? E power I theta plus phi. Do all of you agree with that? Okay. Therefore, this is a group action. Therefore, G acts on the circle group, acts on C. Okay. Pause, review, proceed. Good. Now let's look at what is the orbit of an element. Let us start with the Z, a complex number. I want to know what is the orbit of this element. Right? Let us look at the simplest case. What is the best possible complex number I can think of? Remember, e power I theta times z. As theta varies, I have to find e power I theta times z. So what is the best possible choice of z? Did you say z equal to 0? If you said, very good. Then what is the orbit? Orbit of 0. It is collection of all e power I theta into 0 as e power I theta, which is same as saying theta varies over r. This is 0. So what is the orbit of singleton? Orbit of 0? It is a singleton 0, the element itself. That means when it comes to 0, each of these players are important. They cannot do anything. They are powerless. They cannot dislodge 0. They just have to leave it there itself as a players. You understand? Now let's look at z equal to some non-zero complex number. If you want, take z equal to, next is easy case 1. Okay, what is the orbit of 1? This is again e power I theta into 1 as e power I theta varies over g. But what is this? This is nothing e power I theta as e power I theta varies over g, which is same as saying this is a circle. Now don't say it's a circle group, because group is different, and this is a subset of x, and x is a subset of complex number. Therefore, it is just a circle, unit circle. That is this one. Okay, this is the radius 1. This is I. This is -1. This is I. Okay. So orbit is this. Okay. Right. Now let's look at orbit of some other number, non-zero number. Let us say z is not equal to 0. Okay. Because I want to teach you how to think of orbit also. Okay. Let us look at that. Now this orbit, okay, let us look at that. Suppose W belongs to the orbit. Okay, so I have to find all such W, right? So let us assume. Let us try to work backwards. Suppose W belongs to orbit. That what does it mean? Let us go to the definition of orbit. It must be of the form G dot X. X is here, Z. What is G? Any e power I theta. Therefore, W must be of the form e power I theta times Z. For which? For some e power I theta in G. That is same as saying some for some real number theta in G. Okay, right. So what is unknown here? E power I theta. But notice that since Z is not 0, do you understand this? W equal e power I theta into Z. Right. Now all of you know modulus of a complex number. Therefore, what is modulus of W? It is modulus of e power I theta into Z, which is same as modulus of e power I theta into modulus of Z, which is same as mod Z. Do you understand what I have done? I have proved that if W is in the orbit of Z, then the modulus of W must be same as modulus of Z. Okay, therefore it's a necessary condition. That means if W is in the orbit of Z, then W must be have the same modulus as Z. Both have the same moduli. Is that clear? Okay. Right. Now I want to claim something more. What do I want to claim? I want to claim the following. If W has this property, that is mod W equal to mod Z, then W belongs to the orbit. Do you understand this? How do I prove it? Claim. We want to claim. Okay. If mod W equal to mod Z, that implies W is in the orbit. Okay. How do I do that? Yeah. Right. Right. How many of you can think of an answer to this? Yeah. What is that I have to solve? I have to solve W equal to e power I theta times Z, right? There exists some e power I theta, so the W equal to e power I theta times Z. That means I have to solve for e power I theta. But that's very easy. What is e power I theta? W by Z, right? You understand? Therefore, what do we want to do? Choose e power I theta equal to W by Z. Okay. If at all it happens, I'm working backwards. If it is true, then there is a theta, so that W equal to e power I theta Z. Then I can solve for e power I theta. That is W by Z. So I'm going to take W by Z as a complex number. Okay. Is this a complex number? Yes, because Z is non-zero, therefore W by Z makes sense. That's a complex number. Next, I want to say it's of unit modulus. Why it's of unit modulus? Modulus of W by Z is mod W by mod W, mod Z. But remember, hypothesis mod W equal to mod Z, therefore this is equal to 1. That means W by Z is a complex number which is of unit modulus. But all of us know if some complex number is of unit modulus, it is of the form e power I theta, right? Therefore, W by Z is e power I theta per zone theta, right? That means W is e power I theta into Z. That means W belongs to orbit of Z. Is the proof okay? Right. Now this is all pure symbolic manipulation, but we should look at this. So what we have said is W is in the orbit of X, Z, if only mod W equal to mod Z. Right? Now let's look at Z. Remember, mod Z is non-zero, therefore mod Z is positive. So let us assume Z is here. Then what does it say? It says that this is the circle. Okay. So orbit is nothing other than circle of radius mod Z with the center at origin. Therefore, orbit of Z is circle of radius mod Z with the center at origin, with center at 0, a complex number 0. Do you understand this orbit? Now notice that if I take some other Z, okay, some other Z, that will also be a circle of radius. Yeah, I take another circle. You see that? What do you find? You find all orbits are concentric circles. Do you follow that? All orbits are concentric circles, right? In some sense, they are parallel to each other. Therefore, if I take one orbit, let us say orbit of Z, and take another orbit of some other W, okay, what happens? This will be a circle of radius mod Z. This will also be a circle of radius mod W with same center. Now, what happens? If at all they have one point in common, that means the orbits are the same. Otherwise, they do not have any point in common, right? Therefore, given any two orbits, they are intuitively like parallel objects. Therefore, either they do not have any point in common, or they are identical. Okay, just to make sure that you appreciate this, let's go back to our example 1. In example 1, our group G was an additive group under addition. Our X was R2, right? Now I found out if I take any point A comma B in R2, right? What is the orbit? Call it P. Orbit of P is nothing other than, look at, just for quick reference, I'm doing, this is my AB, right? Then orbit will be all points A plus T comma B as T varies over R, right? Therefore, what should happen? That will be the line y equal to B. Orbit will be y equal to B. Therefore, all orbits are lines parallel to the x-axis. You follow that? Therefore, given any two orbits, what happens? Either they do not intersect, or if they have a point in common, they have to be identical. You see that? In algebra, we are getting geometry. You follow that? Yeah. Now, this is a nice place to explain one more thing. When a group G acts on a set, it need not be in one way. It may act in some different way. The same player may act in different ways another day. For example, let us take G equal to R2. This is a second action. So, sorry, G equal to R under addition and X equal to R2. But this action is different. So let me call it example 3. What is the action? Take a T here. When it operates on X comma Y, this time it shifts only the Y coordinate, that is X, Y plus T. You understand? So what is the picture? I have XY, okay, and I'm going to get, this is XY, this will be my X comma Y plus T. If T is positive, if T is negative, this is X comma Y plus T if T is negative. You follow that? Only the T, Y coordinates affected. Now I'm sure all of you can guess what is orbit. Orbit of the point, let us say P equal to A comma B, orbit of P under this action. This is a different action. You see that? Now the orbits are vertical lines parallel to the y-axis. In the earlier case, the orbits are horizontal line parallel to the x-axis. Now what is the orbit? Quick. Yeah. Can you describe that? It is x equal to A. This is a line, vertical line, x equal to A. And if you call it A comma B, then it is A. A comma 0, this is a vertical line. Everything is, the x coordinate is fixed. You follow that? Okay. Again, the orbits are going to be all vertical lines which are parallel. Therefore, our observation still remains true. Let us give a third example, fourth example rather. The same group G equal to R under addition, and space is again R2, but the action is different now. Now take a t, x comma y, then the action is going to be, it moves both the things, x plus t, y plus t. This is the definition. Okay, you have to check this is a group action. Now by now it's easy for all of you. Yeah, t equal to 0 is x comma y, and t will give you the x plus t, y plus t. Act s on that, it will be x plus t plus s, y plus t plus s, which is same as the combined action. So it's very trivial to check. So this is fine. Now let us look at the r bit under this action. Okay, let me look at the simplest point 0 comma 0. This is my p. What is r bit? R bit under G. This is the third. See, the same group G acts on R2 in 3 different ways now. The first orbit was lines, horizontal lines parallel to x-axis. Second orbits were vertical lines parallel to y-axis. Now let us see what it is. Okay, what are the orbits? This is going to be set of all point t comma t, right? 0 comma 0, 0 comma 0 plus t plus t. That is this, as t varies over r. You understand? Therefore, this orbit is nothing other than the line passing through the origin y equal to x. Right? Now I will tell you how the geometry helps us to decode something easily. I hope you will appreciate this example what I'm doing. Now suppose I take a point a comma b, okay, right? Now I want to know what will be the orbit of p, where p equal to a comma b now. Now let's look at our earlier geometry. It tells me the orbit of a comma b should be in some sense parallel object to the orbit of 0, 0. Unless it coincides, it may also coincide, right? If I take a point here, I'll come to that. If I take a point on this, y equal to x, that orbit will be y equal to x. That we will see in a minute. Okay, so this can happen. Okay, so it must be parallel. So anyway, it's a parallel. So what does it mean? It must be a line parallel to y comma x, which passes through a comma b. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because of the examples, earlier examples, I would guess the orbit of p will be the line passing through AB, which is parallel to the line y equal to x. That means, what does it mean? Any line which is parallel to y, this line is y minus x equal to 0. Therefore, this must be of the form y minus x equal to some constant c. Do you understand this? The orbit of the point AB must be the line y minus x equal to some constant c. So what all I have to do is I have to prove that. But I already guessed it. You understood? But that constant also I can find out. Why? Because on this line, the point A comma B lies. Right? Therefore, what is the y coordinate of that point? B. What is the x coordinate of the point? A. Therefore, y minus x, namely B minus A, must be equal to C. That means I know the line must be actually given by y minus x equal to B minus A. How many of you understand this? Okay. This is just by geometric thinking we got it. Now what we want to do is we will rigorously prove it. Okay, how will I prove it? Okay, let x comma y belong to the orbit of p, right? Then what does it mean? There exists a t, a real number, so that x plus t, that is t dot xy. These are in the orbit. Okay, it must be equal to, sorry, t dot b must be equal to xy, right? When does xy belong to the orbit? There is an element t which takes AB to xy. Okay, where does t take AB? It takes it to a plus t, b plus t. Therefore, what do I want? I want xy must be equal to a plus t, b plus t. What is unknown here? The group element t. So how do I find the t? These two ordered pairs are equal, therefore equate them. Therefore, x equal to a plus t. That means t must be x minus c. Right? And similarly, y equal to b plus d. That means t equal to y minus b. That means x minus a must be equal to y minus b. Okay. Now shift to the other side. Okay. Take b to the left side, x to the right side. What do I get? b minus a equal to y minus x. So I got it. Look at that. This is what I claimed. Therefore, xy belong to the orbit of P if and only if y minus x equal to b minus a, or same as saying x minus y equal to a minus b. Do all of you understand this? Okay. Now, algebra will not forgive me if I don't mention some algebraic abstract examples. Okay, let us do that. So this will be example number 5 possibly. I don't know the exact number. Right. Okay, what is this? Okay, let G be a group. Okay, and X is also equal to G. I consider now as a set here. Now you give me an element A in G and X in X. Remember, X is also an element of G. Now I have to tell you what is A dot X. When G acts on X, I have to tell you A cover the ordered pair AX. We denote by A, it goes to A dot X. I have to tell you what is A dot X. We define the group action A dot AX going to A dot X, where A dot X is the group binary operation, group operation. That is, A is an element of G, X is an element of G. Therefore, I simply define it to be AX. Do you understand this? Yeah. Here it is, the dot is ordinary binary operation, right? Because A and X happen to be elements of G. In general group of action, that's not the case. Okay. This action is called left action. Left action of G on the set G. All right. So I have to check it's a group action, of course. I simply define, but I have to check. Now where will E do? EX, where will it go to? It will go to E dot X, which is of course X, because E is the identity of the group. Now let's look at what happens to X under A. It will go to A dot X. Under B, it will go to B acting on A dot X. You understand that? Now I have A, B, therefore I have to look at the combined element B dot A. Where will it go to? It will go to B dot A acting on X. Are they equal? Yes, they are equal because of associativity of the binary operation. That's why even on the case of general group action, I said it is something like associativity, even though it's not very correct way. Do you understand this? Right. Now, what are the orbits? So fix an element X, okay, G in G, okay. What is the orbit of the group element G? This is by definition A dot G, right, as G varies, A varies over G. Maybe I should write as X so that you will not get confused. A dot X as A varies over G, right? Do you know what this set is? Okay, X is a fixed element of the group. A is an arbitrary element of the group. I am looking at the product A dot X as A varies now. Notice that this will be a subset of G. That's clear, right? Okay. Now I claim they are actually equal. Why they are equal? Let's start with an element Y in G. I want to say Y also belong to the orbit. Okay, of X. What does it mean? That means I have to find whether there is an element A in G so that Y is of the form A dot X. That is, X is taken by A to the element Y. Now notice that we are in group theory. Therefore, what do I know? I know that I can find the solution. What is unknown? A. Do I know how to find A? Yes. Simply multiply by X inverse, then I will have X inverse, which will be A. Therefore, my A is nothing other than yx inverse. So what does that mean? If I take A equal to yx inverse, then yx inverse should operate on x. When it operates on x, what does it mean? It is yx x inverse. Now group associativity tells me it is nothing other than y into x inverse, which is y. Therefore, x is taken by the element yx inverse to y. That means the orbit of any element is the full group. Do you understand this? This is something fantastic. So far, we have not seen such an example earlier. So what have we seen? For every x in G, orbit is G itself. That means there is no question of parallel objects here. There is only one object. You understand that? Earlier, the orbits were many, and we said the orbits are like parallel objects. Either they do not intersect, or if at all they intersect, they are identical. Here, there is only one orbit. Do you understand this? Okay. Let us look at one more example. Now, no, before this itself, can I define right action? I define left action. What did left action do? Start with an element x, then it went under A, it went to A dot x. That is, you are multiplying x by A on the left. That's why I call it left action. Therefore, what should be right action? There is an obvious guess, right? Right action should be x going to x times A. Right? Okay. We have to check it's an action. See, I keep saying every time I define this, but every time I say that we have to prove that it's an action. That is, it satisfies the conditions. Okay, group action definition. So, okay. Now, what happens to x going to x dot E, which is equal to x? Therefore, the first condition is satisfied. Now, let's look at the second condition. So, under A, where will x go to? It will go to x times A. Under B, okay, where will xa go to? It will go to xa times B, which is xab. You understand? Make sure you understand. But what should I look at? I look at A first, B next. Therefore, it is BA. Under BA, where does it go to? It will go to XBA. Okay. Are they equal? I want to know whether XAB equal to XBA for any A, B, and X. This may not be true. You understand? Therefore, an obvious guess for the right action is not true. You can see that it reverses XAB, whereas I get XBA. So in some sense, when it acts AB, I should get the reverse. Can you guess what I should do now? Yes? Yeah. I should do right. So I will define the right action to be x going to under A, x A inverse. So under B, where will it go to? X A inverse, B inverse. That is x A inverse, B inverse. Under AB, where will it go to? Sorry, under BA, where will it go to? It will go to x into BA inverse, which is x into B inverse, A inverse. Sorry, x into A inverse, B inverse. They are equal. Therefore, right action has to be defined carefully. Yeah, you appreciate this? Take some time, pause, review, and then proceed. Right. Now, I have about 10 minutes, so I'll give 2 more examples from group theory. abstract group theory. We will stop the lecture with that. Let G be a group again and X to be a subgroup. Okay, subgroup H. Notice that, sorry, let me just interchange. Okay, let H be a subgroup of G. Okay, you understand that H is a subgroup of G. My X equal to G and my group equal to H, not G. Okay, therefore I want to define H action on G, a subgroup acting on the full group G. Now don't get confused. Okay, G is a group, H is a subgroup, and my set is going to be G itself. My group is going to be H. Therefore, I have to define H acting on G. What I will do is I will simply define the left action as earlier. Yeah. Okay. You notice that? That's what I did earlier. On any group also I could do. Okay. Right. Anyway, let's go back. Okay. Now on the left, that is the left action. What does that mean? You give me an element X in G and X goes under H. Where does it go to? H dot X. What is H dot X? Remember, H is an element of G and hence is an element of G. H is an element of H and hence it's an element of G. X is an element of G. Therefore, this is the binary operation, group operation in G. Therefore, H dot X is an element of G. Therefore, I have an action H cross G to G. Okay. Now, is it a group action? That we had already seen. Okay. So, I don't stop to do that. But what I want to know, if you fix an element A in G, what is the H orbit? Notice that earlier we did G orbit. Now I am doing H subgroup. Now what is this by definition? This by definition is H dot A as H varies over H. Okay, I'm sure all of you have learned this when you did Lagrange theorem. This is HE. Right? What is this? Is the right coset. Right coset of H with representative A. Yeah. So through the left action of H on G, I get a right coset of H. Okay, HA. I don't get the left coset, I get a right coset. Now I know, you know the next question I am going to ask. What is the next question I want to ask? Let us consider the right action of H on G and look at an element of A in G. What is the coset? Sorry, what is the orbit of H with respect to this is with respect to right. This is by definition what? Now we know that H must act on the right, but how does it act? It is HA, H inverse. H in H. But notice that as H, since H is a subgroup, in particular group, as H varies over H inverse varies over H. Therefore, this is nothing other than the left coset. Even though there is H inverse, this is nothing other than left coset of H. Therefore, the right action of H on G, the orbits are going to be left cosets. Okay. Okay. Now with the last example, I will stop. This is example 7. There are a lot more examples as we go along. We will see that. Since I just wanted to give the standard examples given in group theory books, I just wanted to give that. Now the group is G and the set X is also G, but the action is conjugacy action. All of you have learned, right? What is meant by conjugation? Right. So what do? You start with X A in G and X in X, which is also G, of course. Okay. AX, where does it go to? I am going to conjugate the element AX by A. Therefore, it is AX, A inverse. This is the definition. So in this case, A dot X by definition is not AX, but AX, A inverse. That is, this is the group action. Of course, I have to check it's a group action. Yeah. Very good. So what is the group? So I have to check E dot x. E dot x is Ex E inverse, which is Ex E, which is Ex. Therefore, first condition is okay. Now second condition. What is the second condition? Under A, it goes to Ax A inverse. X goes to Ax A inverse. Under B, where will it go to? It will go to B Ax A inverse into B inverse. But this fellow is nothing other than BA X into A inverse B inverse, but that is nothing other than BA inverse. You understand this? Therefore, under X, under BA, where will it go to? BA X BA inverse, which is BA X A inverse B inverse. So these are correct. Therefore, it's a group action. Right? Now, suppose identity is there. I want to know what is the orbit of identity element under this conjugation action. This is going to be A, E, A inverse, as A varies over G. But A, E, A inverse is nothing other than E, therefore it's a singleton E. Right? Just because, okay, A, E is same as A inverse. But if you really notice, you will say, find a gold mine here. What is that? Suppose my X is in the center of G. So, okay, what is center? Set of all elements which commute, that is Xg equal to Gx for every group element G. That X commutes with all elements of G, right? Therefore, what will be orbit of X under the conjugacy action? That is going to be A, X, A inverse with A in G. But remember, X is an element of the center. Therefore, Ax is same as Xa. Therefore, it's same as Xa A inverse. Using associativity as well as the center nature, as A varies over G. But X A inverse is nothing other than identity, therefore it's simply X. So the orbit of any central element is itself singleton X. You follow that? Right. Okay, I think we should stop here. Please go through these things. We will come back to it after quite some time. If you like it, please mark your liking, and unless I get enough likes, I will not continue this lecture. Okay. So if you want to hear from me, you have to go through, make sure you like it or dislike it, then record it. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. Okay, we'll see a lot more. Take care. Bye.